Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sharice and today I'll be talking to you about some of the main pitfalls that you want to avoid when running a serviced accommodation business. So for those of you who don't know what serviced accommodation is, effectively it is a property, tends to be residential property, which is set up to be run like a short stay hotel. So for example, if you went into Airbnb, you wanted to maybe travel to Birmingham, you might go in and look for a property which is not a hotel, and you may find maybe like a flat or an apartment which has been listed. That effectively is a serviced accommodation. Usually they're done by businesses, but sometimes you can have it as an individual running it by themselves as well. It's because it's a bit more homely. You have a bit more flexibility with the things that you can do, and because you're in a residential property, you're able to do things such as have access to a kitchen. You may have a lot more people staying with you, so rather than maybe just 2 people staying in a hotel room, you'll have maybe 3 or 4 people staying in a property where you can kind of have more of a shared experience, enjoy your time together. As operators, service accommodation has become very, very lucrative. It has been a very booming business. At the time of me filming this, obviously we're going through a bit of a situation with COVID-19, and so service accommodation businesses have pretty much ceased unless people are doing have very specific ways in which they're running their properties in order to balance out the hit that most people are taking. But generally speaking, because of the situation, people are not able to list their properties on booking.com, Airbnb or other OTAs, and therefore they are not able to make money through this method. That being said, although there may be many people who are at this point looking to give their service accommodation businesses back or close down their service accommodation business because of this crisis, I do believe that it's going to pick back up again. People are always going to want to travel once they have the opportunity to do so, and not everybody wants to stay in a hotel. So the service accommodation business in itself may be in a coma currently, but it certainly isn't dead, and it's really important to kind of think about how people will move forward once the market reopens. So like I said, I had my own service accommodation property, and I came across lots of other service accommodation operators, and through general conversations you start to kind of learn about some of the issues that people have, and people ask for advice and you share information and you help each other to kind of figure out how people can negate some of these problems. I start to notice trends in some of the very specific types of problems that people would experience when running service accommodation properties. So I kind of bucketed them into 4 main groups. First, we have operational, and this is related to your day-to-day management of your SA business. And then we have relational, and these are to do specifically with the day-to-day interactions that you as a service accommodation operator may have with not only your customers, but your contractors that you work with as well, and some of the pitfalls that you can experience around these areas, because there will be some. The third area is the logistical pitfalls, and these are more related to the systems which you use and systems and practices that you put in place for the running of your SA business. And finally, we have the projectional pitfalls, and these are related to things such as your due diligence, your planning and your forecasting around your SA business, and this can also be quite a big area where you may come across some pitfalls. So what I wanted to do is just to go through each of these areas and give you at least one pitfall that you may come across when running an SA business in each of these areas. Obviously the main thing you want to do is to ensure that you can kind of just think about how you prepare yourself. However, if you have an idea of some of the other things that you might not necessarily think of on a day-to-day basis, then it can help you to be a bit more efficient in the way in which you run your business. From an operational standpoint, one of the biggest pitfalls I've seen is people not having multiple cleaning companies available to work alongside their business. Now, there's a reason why you may want to have more than one cleaning company, and notice that I said cleaning company and not cleaner. If you've only got one cleaner, you are very, very much reliant on one person to handle your cleans. If you've got only one service accommodation property, that may sound fine. However, what happens if you need to have a clean done for your property and your cleaner is sick? Are you going to go and do the clean yourself? If you're like me and your service accommodation property was a 2-hour train journey away, that's not particularly practical. And so working alongside multiple cleaning companies will allow you to avoid some of the biggest issues that you could face. When I first got my service accommodation property, I had a cleaning company which I was working alongside and things were fine. However, what was happening is they actually started to acquire a lot more business, which meant any last minute bookings that I got were a bit problematic to schedule for cleans. So it took a lot more work to get those actioned. But then also they ended up getting a large office cleaning contract, which meant they had to put all service accommodation operators on the back burner. And for them, which is great, and more power to them for doing that. But for me as an operator, that left me high and dry. I found myself going back to Facebook and to the different forums, looking for recommendations, who's got cleaners, and that again can cause undue stress. Because at the time when my first cleaning company left, I had bookings still in the diary, and I had 2 bookings within that space of that week which needed to be handled, which my cleaning company could not do. So what I had to then do is just go on the internet and find a cleaning company which could handle service accommodation, because they're not necessarily the same thing, but they could handle service accommodation, and they took those 2 cleans for me during that week. They were more expensive than what I would be paying for my cleaning company, which hit my bottom line. They also didn't necessarily handle my linens in the way that I'd want. So it meant I had to then call in extra resource to handle something else, which again hits the bottom line of in terms of the money that you're paying out. However, it got done. Now, whether that means you split your cleans between 2 companies just to keep both in rotation, then that could make sense. Or whether it means that you just have one that you work as your main and one that you have as your backup, it's up to you. But I think it's always important to ensure that the cleaning companies that you have, for a fact, moving forward, what their long-term goals are. Are they looking to just grow their business as SAs, or are they looking to do other things? Can they actually cope with the demand if they were to suddenly get more SAs on? Make sure there's just more than one cleaner within the company, because if, for example, one cleaner got ill, you need to make sure there's someone who can back up to go and handle what they need to handle. So I built up a really good relationship with my secondary cleaning company once I got that contract signed, so we had a great system. So at the beginning of the month, I would send them a spreadsheet with all of the bookings that I knew I had already secured for the following month, and that would basically give them a guideline of what they could be expected to do. And then I would give them regular updates to say, look, I've got an extra clean here or an extra clean there, this is how many people, this is how many nights. So they knew what they needed to do, how long they needed to spend sending people to and from my property smoothly. However, I always made sure to have one cleaning company in the back pocket should I need them, because things can go wrong. If, for example, if a whole team was to suddenly go down with something and we're not able to, help out with the last minute clean I had, I needed to have an option, because my business still needs to run, my guests still need to be able to access the property, and they need to have a clean property to stay in. And so having multiple cleaning companies available to you is, really, really beneficial. So from a relational standpoint, one of the biggest pitfalls I see is people not necessarily thinking from their client's point of view when they're setting up and running their service accommodation property. So, for example, some people may think that just because they have a nice apartment in a prime location, it kind of runs itself, and it doesn't necessarily work that way. You are going to have a specific type of client that you're going to attract to your property, and therefore the types of things that you want to have in place for them when they arrive is going to be key. So for the property that I had, the location where it was, I knew that during the week I was going to have more business clientele just because of the location of where the property was. It had access to specific businesses which were constantly sending clients up to the area, and therefore they needed someone to stay. My property was very ideally located, and so I got a lot more business clientele during the week. However, at the weekends, it was more of a party audience. So people were going out for hen dos, or people who were going out for birthdays, romantic getaways, etc. And so the way in which my property was set up, I knew for a fact there were certain things that were going to be necessary. So obviously Wi-Fi is a must, but during the week as well, I didn't need to have, like, for example, Sky. Netflix, yes, because people might want a little bit of entertainment, but the TV wasn't very much used because the people who went up for the weekends were literally going out to party in the evening and just needed somewhere to crash. and then the people who were there in the week were going up for business and therefore wanted a little bit of entertainment in the evening, but generally speaking just one more needing Wi-Fi. So that worked for me. Having double beds in both of the rooms I had, so both of the bedrooms, as well as a sofa bed, was key, because more often than not at the weekends, the number of guests that I would have would probably be around 6 per night, and then during the week it might have been 1 or 2. So it made sense to have double beds. Now, if for example your key clientele is contractors and they're going up during the week, and during the week you maybe have a 2-bedroom apartment and then a number of contractors, maybe double beds might not be the most cost-effective way for you to run your business. You may want to have single beds in the room, because for the contractors, if that's your main audience, just need somewhere to lay their head at night. Obviously they may want some of the nice finer comforts as well, access to Wi-Fi, TV, etc. Maybe having single beds may be a better way for your property to be laid out in order to meet your audience's needs. So thinking from your client's perspective, what do they need? Put yourself in your client's view and think about what it is you would need if you were that person, and provide it that way. That will ensure that your reviews tend to be better and will allow you to continue to get repeat bookings for the same types of clientele to ensure that your business is running smoothly. So from a logistical standpoint, one of the biggest pitfalls that most serviced accommodation operators face when they're new to the business specifically is not having any contingency funds available. One thing to be certain of, things will break in your property. Things will go missing. I know of another service accommodation operator who used to say that she found it strange, but whenever she had guests, there would always be a plate missing or cutlery going missing, etc. Things are missing. And so you need to make sure you have contingency funds available for whoever is going to be in your property check. So for me, it was my cleaning company, when I would make sure that they would check everything before they left, just to let me know of anything that needed to be replaced, and have enough funds available so that they can replace them for me, because I wasn't close by. But making sure you have enough funds available so that you can have things replaced quickly, because your guests will need it. I had a guest once who went into the property, and at this point one of the pots, saucepans, had some damage to it, so they could use it. Once she gave me that feedback, I was able to rectify that by buying a new set that was a better quality set, and my cleaning company were able to get that replaced for me. So things like that are really, really important. Using that time to be as quick and efficient, and using your contingency funds to make sure that you're covered. It doesn't have to be a crazy amount that you put aside, but just be aware there will be things that will need to be repaired, especially if you're doing rent to rent. You want to maintain the property as much as possible, so any little maintenance that you can do throughout your tenancy will hold you in good stead when it comes to renewal. Because if the landlord can go into the property, or the estate agent, or whoever you're working with at the time, can go into the property and see that it's been maintained to a high standard, they're more than likely to want to continue to work with you, number one, or also they're more than likely willing to, if there's the estate agent we're talking about, let you know other properties which may be willing to do the same style of contract, which means that you're able to grow your business. And finally, here we have the biggest mistake that I've seen service accommodation operators make in the projectional field, and it's setting your rates too high and not setting your rates in accordance to the market that you're in. Now, I did this myself when I first got my service accommodation property, because I'd kind of figured, well, prime location, I can charge £200 a night and people will book it. It doesn't really work that way. Outside of doing your due diligence, you have to kind of really think about who's booking and when. Like I said, once I realized I've got an idea of what kind of customers that I could be attracting and the numbers of customers I would be attracting, I really set my rates a bit more strategically. So Mondays to Wednesdays tended to be my cheapest days. Those are the days, when you think about it, most people are traveling for business, and I would only really have maybe 1 or 2 guests a night on those days. And so I set the rates for 1 or 2 guests at the same level for around, rather than £200 a night, it was maybe £80 a night, which for a business is reasonable, and it's more in line with some of the hotels. So I'm competing with the hotels, but at the same time I'm setting myself up for, you know, understanding that what I bring to the market is something very, very different to what the hotels offer. And therefore, for a business, if they're going to put their staff somewhere to stay for a business trip, it's a very viable option. So I would do, say, anywhere between 70 and 90 pounds a night, Monday to Wednesday. When we hit Thursdays and Fridays, there will be a slight increase, but not massively. Again, because we're still looking at maybe 1 or 2 guests a night. But specifically on a Friday, it would be a bit more expensive, because you're more than likely going to have people who may be going away for long weekends, or you know, different events like that. So again, if we're looking at the basis of 2 people, it would still be around maybe the higher end of 90 to 120 pounds a night. And then Saturdays would be the most expensive. Again, if we're looking at 2 people, we're maybe looking closer to 150, 160 a night, depending on, you know, the time of year as well. That's another thing to take into account. And then on Sundays, because it was a quieter day, I tended to make that much cheaper, because more often than not, if you can make one day a week cheaper, so for example for me, Sunday, if it was the cheapest day of the week, you're more likely to get people who would book 2 days in a row. So you may get someone who books a Sunday and a Monday, or a Saturday and a Sunday, and therefore overall the price made sense. Like I said, factoring in seasonality is really important. When you think about the area where you're running your service accommodation property, and you think about the times of year as well as the area, etc., you want to take into account seasonality. So for me, when my serviced accommodation property was located, what I did was I went onto their council website to see what events were happening in that year. So for me, I might look at, for example, things like football fixture dates, because I knew that people would be traveling for those, you know, for football, and therefore will maybe looking for somewhere to stay, and so those prices might be a little bit more expensive. If you're looking just at the general calendar, specific dates such as like Christmas, New Year's, etc., bank holidays, those kinds of things, I would make sure those dates were a bit more expensive, because you're going to charge a premium for those dates, because people are more likely to travel and will be more willing to pay a premium for those dates. Obviously nothing extortionate, but you can add a premium there. And then factoring in those things for seasonality, even like I said, seasonality across the week. So Mondays to Wednesdays, like I said, for me were cheaper days. Thursdays and Fridays a little bit more expensive. Saturday would be my premium day, and Sunday would be, again, very, very cheap. So that's how I would structure my pricing in order to meet, you know, the market, number 1, meet my customers, number 2, and also meet the seasonality of the area that I'm in, number 3. So this is just a quick snapshot of some of the things that you can start thinking about if you are going to venture into the service accommodation business moving forward. Like I said, it is a very lucrative business, and it can be very successful provided you do it right. But there's just some things to think about, you know, to make sure that your business is set up for success from the beginning. Thanks very much. Please like, comment and subscribe. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments and I'll be sure to answer those. But yeah, let me know what you think. Are you thinking about service accommodation as a potential investment strategy moving forward? If so, you know, what areas are you thinking about? What would be the biggest pitfall that you want to be aware of moving forward for yourself? Thanks very much. Bye.